Well, everybody knows the Zimbabwean voice now, so that's for sure. And it's a beautiful voice, that one. One of unity, one of togetherness, one of peace, one of love, you know. That's the way forward. Oga, Oga.
From the African Highway Podcast Network, I'm Jimmy Mabena, and this is Zimbabwean Voices, the show where we have conversations with Zimbabweans from home and abroad that are working hard each day to use their platform to shift the Zimbabwean narrative for the better. For episode 4, I had the honor of having a conversation with entrepreneur and makeup artist Jacque Mgido, owner and founder of Jacque Mgido Cosmetics. From her story, we learned the process of leveraging success abroad to invest in Zimbabwe while simultaneously building a global brand. My key takeouts of this conversation, which I loved, were what it means to push through failure, the struggle in building a global brand, what it means to invest in your country, then most importantly, the process of empowering young women and changing lives. Enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Cool. On to Jacque. Appreciate the time and you taking the time to really engage with me. Of course, I think for many people, they'll go on your Instagram and they know about your history with Vault or with Jacque Mgido Cosmetics. But me having been spending time, I've had the luxury of being, spending time with you, is I've heard all of the different backstories, or at least a glimpse of them, that have gone into building this brand and this journey you've taken. So first of all, I just really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me,
Oh, you kidding? This is exciting. First of all, I'm so proud of you for doing this because you love people so much and everybody wants to open up to you and talk to you because I think that they feel like you are really invested in the conversation. So this right here is exactly what you're supposed to be doing because it is, it's a conversation. Right? And nobody wants to hear a speech. Everybody wants to hear a conversation, a story. Yeah.
Absolutely. So where are you right now? Just so everyone knows, get a bit of a flavor around what you've been up to, where you've been.
Sure.
Give us a sense.
So for the people that know me, I live in LA. We live in Hollywood. Guess what? Hollywood has moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. So
you mean as an idea or just for you specifically?
Oh no. So what happens is a lot of times Hollywood has, people have studios all over the country and all over the world. So you go and shoot a show and it looks like it was shot in Hollywood, but it's actually shot in a different town. And this one is being shot. It's part of Discovery. And Discovery has Food Network and all these other shows. And they have this big studio in Knoxville, Tennessee. And that's where I am. And I've been here for the past 5 months. And
what's the show that you're doing makeup for? What's the show called?
Oh my gosh, so many shows. So if you watch Food Network and you love Food Network, we've shot baking championships. Right now we're about to shoot kids baking. We've shot Halloween baking championship. We've shot, you name it, best bakers, you name it. We've shot it. So if you watch most of those food shows, those are pretty much, I head a lot of those food shows.
Amazing. And how do you, we know we're talking about this earlier, but how are you balancing, of course, there's you being in Knoxville, but then of course there's also LA where your husband and your daughter are, right? How have you been balancing all that?
Well, can I just tell you, I love it when people say, how do you balance all that? I don't. I don't
we just manage.
We just manage. Because the thing is, if I say I balance it, it makes me sound like this woman that is absolutely amazing and strong and is able to do everything. Nope, that's not it at all. I just do it. It is taking one day at a time and realizing there is no other option. Apana options. This is it.
Those are really, that's what it is.
This is really, yes, this is it. So you just go with it and hope it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Huge. And the reason I thought, as I was saying to you earlier, I think why we'd have this conversation is because if you're like, let's say an African girl or Zimbabwean girl around, or anyone really who wants to work in, if I can call it show business in whatever facet that looks like, sometimes you see people on a mantle or on a pedestal and you have no idea how they even got there. Like there's no book or there's no story that, or at least not yet in terms of en masse, that shows you exactly what are the steps I need to take to get there. So I guess for me, what I want to do is just take it back and find out, when you were young, then Tari or Blue, was this something that you wanted to do, which is be in Hollywood, if I can call it that?
So I was in Harare. So Kumusha Kwedu is Kwamtare kwa Tsomba. My mother is from Kwekwe. But I grew up in Harare. And so the funny thing is, the dream for me when I was in Zimbabwe, it wasn't specific, but I knew it was magical because I was always a dreamer. So my dream was to be something that is unattainable at home because I watched a lot of movies. You know, it wasn't specific that I wanted to do hair. It wasn't specific that I wanted to do acting. I just knew that I wanted to be in that world, but I just didn't know what it was. So for me, the goal was to get out of Zimbabwe first because I knew that I wouldn't be able to then find my niche of what I wanted to do. But I also really knew it was in the beauty world. It was something in the beauty world, you know?
Were you wearing makeup in high school and that?
So
well, not really.
Are you kidding? With Babam Chanyuka, my father, makeup, right? I mean, I would not even be talking to you right now. Okay. My dad was one of the strictest fathers in the whole wide world. Let me tell you something. My extent of makeup was like eyeliner. And even at that, okay, I used to put the eyeliner so lightly. My dad would look at me and you'd think, that's what gives you're a little fresh. Didn't realize that the eyeliner was making me pop. He just used to look at me so and be like, what? I don't know what's going on. So for me, it was invisible. My makeup was invisible. All it did was enhance my features. And I think that's when I started loving it. So I kind of was putting on makeup, but not really. Because even in high school at QE, we weren't allowed to put on makeup. In fact, my dad, because
it's Queen Elizabeth, right? This is Queen Elizabeth show.
Yeah, I went to Queen Elizabeth and then I went to Evelyn. But my dad was the kind of man who was like, let's cut your hair real short because when you have long hair, when you walk Farisa, and you're gonna get pregnant right away just by a guy.
Jacque Mgido, she has to get.
Yeah, and I lived in Tynwald, and Tynwald was so far out, right? And nobody knew who I was. Like, I mean, all these Prince Edward boys, like I literally dated a guy on the phone from Prince Edward. I didn't even see him. I think I saw him like twice a year. Because
you'd call him per landline, and that was the thing.
Yeah, I would call him per landline, and that was the thing, right? And you know, I would spend most of my time watching Soul Train, and I would watch all those other shows. And this is how I got into like the whole Hollywood thing, right? Because I'd watch Soul Train, and then I would practice to dance with them. So when my dad would go out of town or whatever, and I'd go out like once every 2 years, everybody thought I was the new girl in town, okay? And then they would look at my dances and think that I would go to the USA. And Masinga Zeoguri was all in Tynwald in the lounge.
I'm just watching Sean. I'm just watching Soul Train on TV, doing like the whole.
I would lip sing. I was like in my own fantasy. That was it for me. Like guys would see me and be like, "Who's that new girl?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's that girl that lives in Tynwald." I got Kirwa.
Oh man.
That was like so for me, I think that's where the whole dream of I need to be there. I don't know what's going on in that box, but I need to be there. That was my thing. Yeah. That was my thing.
So what did that look like in terms of that transition from going from Tynwald, if I can call it, to the US? Did it go somewhere else in Zim, or did you make literally like just a straight jump? What was that transition like? And how did it even come about, you know?
You know, our family was really blessed that, you know, at that time they had the ability of sending everybody to the United States or England, my siblings. And my siblings worked really hard to, you know, by that time, my dad had kind of lost, you know, his money and stuff. Things weren't really going right. So my siblings paid for me to go and stay with my sister in St. Louis. And trust me, St. Louis.
So let me hold you there, unpack that a little bit. So I think, so what happened? So the reason I'm going to just go back there is because I think a lot of Zimbabweans know that feeling where, I know where financially one day you're fine, and then a series of events happens and you're like, goodness me, we're sleeping on the floor. What is going on? You know what I mean?
Let me tell you. So my dad was a very hard worker, and my dad worked at this company called Metal Box, and he'd worked there ever since he was like 16 years old. And he really worked himself up to the point where he was pretty much management. And he was saving his money, and he lived a very careful life. My dad didn't take gambles. We lived in Tinwald. We were one of the first Black people to stay with Tinwald. And I even remember in Bayavo when he bought the house, he bought the house through a friend of his because he wasn't even allowed to buy a house because he was Black. And his white friend bought the house, put it under his name. We moved in. And when independence happened, this is when we got the house. So my dad was just one of those people who was just so hardworking, and we had everything that we needed, but also lived the life. You know, this is the deal. I have my maids, I have my gardeners, but these people are not your gardeners and not your maids, because you just never know what will happen in life. This is what my dad stood by. I mean, everybody that would come and visit our house. I mean, our house was called Shikurubi Maximum Prison. Okay.
They're in Tinwald.
Yes, because my cousins would come and they knew my dad would say, what are you doing with your money? Where are you going with your money? So then all of a sudden, our economy in Zimbabwe went really bad. And my parents, poor people, lost a lot of money. They put their money in the bank and the money was deteriorating. And then before you know it, by the time it was my turn to go to overseas, he couldn't afford it anymore. So my siblings put money together, and that's how I ended up going overseas. Yeah.
Damn. And everyone's gone. And I think you're one of six, if I remember correctly. One of six, right? Or seven?
Well, I'm one of six. But all my siblings had pretty much all grown up, right? So everybody kind of had left the country, and some of them had stayed, and everybody had moved on with their lives, you know. And being the baby, you there, and then they're like, what do we do with this child? You know, so that's how. And
then ended up saying,
okay. And my sister was in St. Louis, so my siblings put money together and they said, come to St. Louis. And trust me, that was not the Hollywood I was promised. I was like, what in the world is this?
Yeah, this is not Soul Train. This is not the Soul Train that I saw on TV.
Can I just tell you, I think people that have never been to America before, you know, when we're at home, we always assume we see America as this place that we see in the movies, right? And then people don't understand, America is such a big, it's big. It's this big country.
Yeah.
It's actually a whole huge. Big, you could call it a continent, you know? And there's different areas, right? And there's areas, Anenganamtare, there's areas like Chegutu. There's areas like that, you know? So when you think you're coming, I think you're going to New York. And I ended up in St. Louis. And at that time, St. Louis was the Mutare of America for me.
Right. And what does that mean? And what does that mean in terms of, you know what I mean?
Like they weren't the New York. They weren't fashion forward. They were just living comfortably, and that was it.
Just a Midwestern town, not too cosmopolitan.
The fashion, they didn't have fashion. They probably were trying to catch up to the fashion as much as we were trying to catch up to the fashion in Zimbabwe. So I was very confused when I got to the airport. I was like, who are these people? This is not the America that I was promised. What the heck?
And what was your intention? What was your intention when you got to St. Louis? You know, so was the goal to say, I'm going to get to St. Louis and then I'm going to do X? You know?
Absolutely not. So the intention was for me to go to school. And the only thing that I could think of that I actually liked is I liked our dogs. So I figured, well, if I like dogs, I'm going to be a vet. Right? So I was going to be
a noble
vet.
profession. A noble profession.
God,
but
a
sure.
total
Yeah.
noble profession. Until I went the first year in school and I was like, what the hell is this? I don't even know
You actually started.
So
you actually started. You started.
Well, I went to community college, and
Wow.
when I was at community college, right, you don't completely start to go there, but I was trying to get subjects that then would lead me into becoming this vet. When I saw myself like gazing into the window, outside the window, then I knew I had a problem.
Like, this ain't it. This ain't it.
And my sister then was like, you need to find something that you like. The great thing about America is you can actually kind of pick what you like. And I said, you know what? I like doing hair. So I went to cosmetology school, but I knew that cosmetology school, people don't understand. They always think cosmetology school is makeup. It's nothing to do with makeup. It's everything to do with hair. And then when I went there, I knew for a fact that that's definitely not what I wanted to do. And I ended up, being there. I did hair for a while. I did nails for a while. But then I fell in love with makeup. I really fell in love with makeup. I fell in love with makeup because I was very insecure about my looks. I started thinking, when you're in America, you're around a lot of people that are mixed. Right? Right. Everybody is kind of light. And if they're not light, they have what we call good hair, which would be the flexible hair, right? And you start feeling a little bit insecure because for some weird reason, at that time when I arrived, everybody was trying to straighten their hair. And I also started feeling what I used to feel in Zimbabwe. Dark wasn't right, light was right, especially for women, right? And I already felt that insecurity when I was in Zimbabwe. So I can just imagine coming here and being around a lot of people that are mixed women,
amplified. So
it was completely amplified for me. So now I'm feeling really self-conscious about my nose. I'm feeling conscious about my natural hair. Remember, I've just come from Mr. Mchanyika's house. There was no way I'm coming in with a perm.
Does that feel like that?
I had my little afro hair. So the first thing I remember doing is, I remember as I was going through cosmetology school, the girls were introducing me to straight hair and they were cutting my hair really cool. And I was feeling it too, right? But now I was thinking, shoot, I have like this fat nose and I'm not light enough. What can we do? And I started playing around with makeup. But the problem is there wasn't makeup for my skin. So as I started playing around with makeup, I was adjusting it to my skin tone. And then that's when I started venturing out and got a job with Clarence Cosmetics. And Clarence was mostly skincare. They had a little bit of cosmetics. And I started playing around with that. And people saw that I had a niche. So which was what? This is like this niche of being slightly darker skinned and what have you. What was this? What was the niche? The niche was basically converting any sort of makeup and adjusting it to whoever it is that came to me that needed makeup. And
I see.
Yeah, so it was, and also just the way I sold the product. I sold with integrity. If they told me that it did a certain thing and I knew it didn't do that thing, I would make sure I found something that it actually really did. And that's how I sold things. And people liked that about me. So I started growing my market that way and I quickly got promoted. But I wasn't happy. I didn't like it. I wasn't happy. I watched a lot of TV, but I couldn't. Because
and you're still in St. Louis. And you're still in St. Louis at this time, right?
No. I now had moved to Washington, D.C. I went from Philadelphia. I went to cosmetology school. Then I went to Washington, D.C. That's where I went. I started working for Clarence. And I remember being there and I remember having a conversation with my husband, Kitani, and saying, I want to do what Oprah. I don't know who does Oprah, but whatever. I knew there had to be a back scene to this Hollywood world, right?
Yes.
But I didn't know what to even call it. I didn't know what it was. And he started researching and found a makeup school. And then that's where everything changed for me because we flew to Hollywood. We went to visit the makeup school in Hollywood. And
from DC to California, you say, let's just see. Let's go and see.
Yeah, let's go and see it. And he found it. Kitani found it. And we went to see the school. And I was like, wow, this is how you get in. Because the school offered, hey, let's train you to do makeup for TV and film, because there's a difference. And from there, I was like, oh, there's makeup for TV and film. It's not like wedding makeup or day-to-day makeup. And
there's a whole spectrum. There's a whole spectrum.
Oh my God. There's a whole spectrum to it, a complete spectrum to it, you know, because you have to understand lighting. You have to understand adjusting the skin tone to what the camera is seeing. You have to understand the different cameras that they're filming, so you know what kind of makeup to do. You have to understand contouring. You know, one person can look a certain way in real life, and you want that person to look exactly how they look in real life, but better. So you have to understand how you're going to make them do that and not make them look so different that people can't recognize them. You have to understand, you also have to understand how you would help that person do their level best in terms of acting, you know, what kind of makeup. So people don't understand, like, for example, I'll give a quick example. If you have a movie where the person's feelings and mood is adjusting, your makeup has to adjust to that, so that you guys that are watching at home don't concentrate on the makeup. You concentrate on the film itself, because when you start seeing the makeup in the movie, you've lost the plot and you've lost the movie.
Because the makeup needs to match the emotion. Like it needs to match the emotion of the scene.
You literally need to be indulged in the movie. You need to get lost. It's almost like you can't see the person anymore. You see the character.
So is there sometimes like a script where they'll say, for this scene, we are doing Sylvester Stallone and he's feeling adrenaline. It's like, okay, then you know, okay, I'm going to go to
100%.
This. Wow.
100%. Yeah. Because you'll have a scene where somebody is sick, right? And maybe they have a certain type of cancer. You need to research that cancer and look and say, could this cancer is what that person is going to look like. You can't have, everybody always feels like, oh, they have cancer, so you're going to put dark circles under their eyes and they're going to look gaunt. That's not necessarily true. What if this person is full of steroids and they look heavy? So you need to be able to
makeup has to adjust. Huge.
100%.
And okay, firstly, I didn't even realize that. It makes sense when you kind of articulate it to me, but I didn't even realize that the level of research and nuance was that in depth, which is 100%. Like really interesting. And you're saying that this kind of education, if you will, came when you went to the school in California.
Makeup designery. It's called makeup design. It's called MUD.
Makeup design. And what was that like? Did you some people have like these aha moments where they walk into a school or a particular space and it just feels like, yes.
Home. Oh my God. Yeah. So my aha moment, in my head, I had something completely different. I just thought you go in, you sit down, they just teach you how to do brows and eyeshadow and you'll be done. But they have different rooms where they teach you how to do special effects, where they teach you how to do, so people confuse making the prosthetics and putting on the prosthetics. They're two different things, right? So they have two different rooms where you learn how to apply the prosthetics. And then there's a room where you are making the prosthetics. So for me, that was absolutely amazing, because then my drawing skills had to come into place.
Wow. Just like your penmanship, like your skills to be able to, you have to, right.
Yes, because I had to make prosthetics. My final, I made a Ferengi. If anybody doesn't know Star Trek, I made a Ferengi for my finals. We were given a slab, you're given a slab of clay. Then you have a couple of weeks to like mold it and into how it's supposed to look. And then you use latex, and then it's a whole thing. But it's pretty amazing. I was even shocked at my own work.
This is unreal. And how long was the program for? Was it like a year, 2 years, or longer?
It was a year program. Nope, it's a year program. And then you pretty much do an internship where you start working for free for movies. And it takes, so like when you're doing a movie that is non-union, And especially the cheap movies, not cheap, but the
and non-union means like I'm not in like a big studio like Warner Brothers, or I'm not in MGM studios.
No. Non-union basically means somebody who has probably got only like maybe $100,000 and they want to make a movie. And
so that's a small, in the US context, that's a small budget film. In the United States context,
oh my God, that's like a total low budget. That's probably like a college movie. That'll be like a final for somebody who's in college.
Someone saying, someone at USC is saying, "Hey, I'm doing a short film for my final. I need to raise $100,000 to cut this film."
And I think now it's even more, because a low budget movie is considered a $10 million movie in Hollywood. That's a low budget movie. Yeah,
it's another world. So you're there. You're doing this non-union work for a year, right?
Yeah. So non-union work.
Like?
It's interesting because, like, for example, we call it guerrilla style. These people don't have permits and you can shoot anywhere, but you have to run away if the police comes.
Yeah.
Or you have to pretend you're doing something else. So I have so many experiences. I mean, there's dangerous, experiences where you have like stunt guys, they decide, let's do a movie. And you get hired for it. And they're like, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to go on the highway, right? And then we're going to drive really, really fast. And in there, what we're going to do is somebody's going to go and jump from one car to the other on the highway. They have no permits, nothing, no safety, anything. And you're just going, Lord, help me. I hope we make it home. Or you on a show where it's, you're shooting for more than 14 hours and you don't have enough food there because you're supposed to have craft service, and then you're supposed to have, food. Pretty much you're supposed to have food the whole day, and they feed you like chips, and you're like,
because there's a tight budget. Because there's a tight budget.
Yeah, and you get on the, because now when I go on my shows, it's crazy. And I always say, first world problems. We are expecting stuff, right? Like if we don't have a place where there's enough lighting, and if it's kind of cold, then you're like, hello, where are we going to put our makeup station?
This lighting is so off. This is unacceptable.
Yeah.
This is
you can't the food. Give us a room. Yeah, I mean, and what's going on with this? It's funny because I look at our catering, because we have craft service, which is craft service. They have food the whole day. Like you can just go and get whatever you want, right? And then they have the catering, which we have to be given lunch. And if you work overtime, then we given dinner. And you have choices on what to pick. And I see people going, oh my God, are we like totally eating this again? Like every day they expect something different, right? And when I find myself trying to go that route where I'm about to complain about food, I have to remind myself that there's people at home that don't have this. And I'm like, calm down, Jackie. Okay? Just calm. Just because you're in the United States does not mean that you need to act the part. So sometimes I'm just like, Lord, thank you for the food we're getting. And mind you, it's great food too. But I'm like, thank you for the food we're getting. I have to remind myself I never, ever, 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 ever want to get used to it. I never want to get used to Hollywood. Every single time I go to a studio, anytime I'm doing a movie, I take at least within the time we're shooting, maybe once a week or whatever, I take a minute to just stare at the studio and be like, and
say,
wow,
what is
this is my life.
Yeah.
This is my life. Never want to forget it. I've done this for 20 years. And I still say, wow, this is my life.
This is happening. This is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me, so you're doing these guerrilla films, right? But of course, there's still like, it seems as though there's still I don't know how the LA scene works, but there's a gap between going to school, doing the internship after a year's worth of free work, right? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, landing a gig, if we can call it that. So what does that even look like post that?
So very interesting, because it all depends on, it has to do with luck. It also has to do with your attitude. And it also has to do, it's mainly your attitude, really, because a lot of times when you work these shows, what tends to happen is you'll come across so many people. And it doesn't matter what you're doing on the show. Do it 110% because someone's noticing. So what tends to happen with that is someone's noticing and you're talking to a lot of people and you always want to volunteer your time, right?
Right.
So when you volunteer your time, they're the first people to call you. It's all about connections and who you know. They're the first people to call you and be like, hey, listen, is there a possibility that you can work this? And you say yes. And then from there, you work your butt off. And then people call you. That's what happened to me. You know, I am so blessed. I can't even tell you. Do you know how difficult it is for an African girl to be managing a makeup department on $1 million budget shows and movies? It's crazy. Someone
Absolutely.
is entrusting their millions. You know, because anybody that comes and sits in my chair, I'm going to set the mood for that actor. I'm going to set that mood for that judge. If they don't feel their best, they will not perform.
Yeah,
that's a lot of responsibility.
Because the day starts with you in many ways. It
starts with makeup and hair. We set the mood.
First thing, Michael Strahan, how are you? And he's like, hey, I have to go and get him ready for the show.
100%. Yeah. Which, by the way, a friend of mine does Michael Strahan, and he's the best. Super fun guy. Yeah, super awesome guy.
Amazing. So, who, of course, like, to get to a point where you can almost be managing on that particular, it's not done. These things are done in isolation. You have to have some people that are mentoring you throughout this process to say,
100%.
Jackie, you move like this. When you get to here, you call me, or I can link you with so and so. Who's mentoring you throughout this whole process? You know.
So I have a line producer. I had a line producer. She passed away. Her name was Mary. And she pretty much put me out there, right? And I had to kind of figure myself out a little bit. Understanding logistics, understanding the work ethic on a movie set or even on a production, understanding the language, because there is a language. We have our own language in production, right?
Right. So
you just you have to put it in there and kind of listen to people and find out what they're saying, how they're saying it, and also working under someone. Like, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't worked under a lot of makeup artists, only because I've worked with this production company for a long time. So I've always been the head makeup artist. It's not it's a good and a bad thing, because it's a good thing in the sense that I'm a head department, right? But it's a bad thing in the sense that some of the stuff, when I've worked with other people, I have to kind of learn later on in life. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't remember doing that. You know? So in terms of mentorship, it's basically everybody that you work with on set is going to be your mentor, because you have to understand what they're doing, right? And the line producer is the person who's hiring you for the job. So that would be my mentor. So if they're not complaining, obviously I'm doing something right. So Mary passed away about 3 years ago, but she's the first woman that ever hired me for my big job. And throughout the years, she would call me and she would advise me, and all she would say to me is attitude, 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 and be willing. And also read the room. That was a big thing. Read the room. And let me tell you about reading the room. I thank my father and my mother, the Muchanyukas, that they were so strict with us, because I have learned to read the room. It's an art. It's a whole art.
What does that look like in a Hollywood context? It's like you walk around, you say, okay, who's here? You know, what does that look like?
Basically, understanding the etiquette of how to act, when to say something, when not to say something, when to be involved, and when not to be involved. So somebody walks into the room, right? I need to think, well, they are, I don't need to talk to them. If they come into the room and say hello, and I say hello, and it doesn't extend to how are you today, then I know what they basically telling me is, I don't feel like talking right now. And I need to understand, they're probably reading their scripts, they're going over their lines. I need to just be quiet. The only thing that I'm saying to them is turn your head, do this is what I'm doing, and that's it. And we're going to be quiet. I can't impose my music or any type of noise when they come in my room, right? I can't impose different smells in the room. I need to understand if I have a fragrance on, it needs to be very light. I can't have candles. I can't have sprays. I need to understand those things because I don't know if they're allergic to the stuff, or I don't know if it offends them, because that can offend them the whole day, you know?
Yeah.
And if a director comes in and is talking, I need to understand where the stuff starts sounding sensitive so that I can pull myself out of the room and not get myself involved in this conversation.
Where this is going, I think it's best if I just remove myself 100%. From the situation.
Right. I'll just remove myself. I'm just like, okay, they need to be talking, right? So that's called reading a room. That's reading a room. So if you can understand that, you'll go a long way.
You're gone. Phenomenal. And so you're in California, and of course, you know, your husband, Uncle Katani, has said, look, let us go and see. And now, of course, you're now fully in this thing. What does that then mean from like a relocation perspective? Does that mean you guys all genuinely had to then move to California and figure that out? Or was it a bit of a, you know, what was that like?
I moved to California a year before he moved in because he had a job. So he finally moved a couple of months later after I had moved already.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So we relocated to LA.
Right. And how important has it been to have a supportive partner? Like throughout, you know.
Can I just tell you, if you don't have a supportive partner, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. It's super important because this industry is a very complicated industry. I travel a lot. I'm around a lot of men. You know, the only people that are really in females that you find are very rare. You know, I'm in a room with an actor. They're gorgeous, 6-pack, beautiful, you know. You have to be pretty secure with yourself, right? And you have to be a very secure man or a woman, or else it's not going to work out. And for us we have a goal, okay? We want to be able to retire together. We have a goal. Right. We want to be living comfortable. We want to travel. Right. You know, so he understands that I love what I do. And if I'm not happy with what I do, then I'm not going to be a good partner, right?
Yep.
And if he's not happy with what he does, he's not going to be a good partner to me. And I have to be an individual. And I'm an individual because I love what I do and I found what I love. And it's not like I'm choosing an industry where it's putting us in danger. It's an industry that just gives me utter life.
Yep.
And I'm an individual. And even though I have a child, but he and I have allowed ourselves to be individuals. Even having like we're parents, but we're not like, oh my God, our lives are just parents.
Yes, I'm Jackie first.
Yes,
you're right.
I have to be.
Yeah.
I have to be. You know, I actually like being by myself in a hotel room for a minute, and I'm sure he likes it too, being by himself. Okay, because you can't just listen. I mean, let's not lie. This whole people want to be together for 24 hours. They're lying. It's a lie.
Sometimes you need some space just to balance each other out a little bit.
100%. Yeah.
No, huge. You mentioned something which is very pertinent, which is like, of course, goals, of course, over long term would be like to retire, travel, do all of these things, right? And I'm going to come to like how you, of course, started your cosmetics company and your cosmetic brand, but you spoke about you loving what you do and kind of getting, what is it that really drives you in this industry? Like, what is your source of inspiration? Because there's something about it that kind of keeps you 20 years in, right? What is the thing that sustains you, you know?
The action around it, everything about the action around it. Being able to physically and mentally do something that you absolutely love in different environments And knowing that it's not the same every single day, that for me is an adrenaline rush. I like getting excited over anything. You know, I could plan my day on an eyeshadow look that I'm going to do and think it's going to be the best day ever.
Right.
Because it's different, right?
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it.
Just the sheer action of it, like going on set, the planning, the training everyone else, everything about it.
Everything about it. And then seeing it on TV or on a big screen and saying, wow, that is our work. I've never met anybody who's, you know, I think the reason why people sometimes hate working in environments where they're not appreciated is because they're not appreciated. Like nobody knows, you know what I mean? And they start saying, no one's seeing me, because everybody wants to be seen.
I watched a video when you spoke about this. You said everyone wants to be noticed.
Yep. Even the shyest person wants to be
Even
noticed.
the shyest person, you said everyone wants to be noticed. And you still believe that even when you put makeup on people, you can tell like if a shy person comes into your studio or what have you, you know?
When a shy person comes to my studio and then they get their makeup done, the way the heads and then the walk, and then, you know, it's funny because we have a stay in Shona, but it's not that Akufari, they just found their step, man.
Right.
They just found their step. They found their groove. You know, it's like dancing as a group and you're not really getting the rhythm. And all of a sudden, when you get the rhythm, people are like, oh my God, they're really into it. It's not that they're really into it. They just found their rhythm and they're excited.
Yeah. That's so on point. And there's this idea, of course, of everyone wanting to be noticed. And so you're in this industry, you've gone to California, and for some reason, you say, I think I want to take it a step further. And the reason why I bring this up is because you look at like the makeup industry, you can go to, I don't know, Edgar's or where have you. Often, I think women get to a certain point where they're even working behind set or what have you, but they don't always take you to the point of ownership and say, I want to take that level further and have my own brand that can really, reach across the globe. What even inspired that? What drove you to want to make that next step? And why doing it in Zim, do you know?
Actually, that story began with a friend of mine. A friend of mine had moved to Zimbabwe and was like, you need to invest in your country. And I went to visit. I hadn't gone home for 6 years. I came home and something happened where I actually wanted to be home as well. Like I missed that connection in Zimbabwe. There's something about landing in Zim and there's this life that I don't even know how to explain it. Anyone that's been out of the country.
You just feel it in the air. You just feel it like in the air.
Man, it's like this. It's almost like you have this whole movie and song in your head and you're like, yeah, I'm here. I feel it. And I said, you know what? I want to start something. And the intention was not to start my own brand. I didn't want to do anything with makeup because I was so afraid of failing at what I'm really good at. So I decided that I wanted to do a nail bar because it hadn't been done. And started talking to this one guy who was like, hey, why do you keep wanting to do a nail bar? All you do is talk about makeup because, a friend of mine was like, let's visit this guy. And he was doing business in Zim. And all I did, and I didn't even realize it, all I did was talk about makeup with him, right? And he looks at me and he was like, you keep talking about makeup, but you want to open up a nail spot? Why don't you do makeup? And I said, you're absolutely right. So I figured, well, you know what? Again, I don't want to do anything that I think I'm going to fail at. Why don't I bring in a completely
Why are you afraid?
different...
Why are you afraid of failing?
Because if other people saw me failing, they were going to laugh at me.
So the thoughts of what other people think, is that still a thing? Of course, you've jumped that hurdle, or is that still something that you kind of try and nurse even now?
It's always going to be a thing. It's always going to be a thing. You know why it's going to be a thing? Is because I don't know anybody that will never get offended with what someone's going to say, especially when they're attacking their character, because that's all we have.
It's personal.
Oof. Personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
very
like
personal.
Attack at me. Right.
Yeah. Like, when I see people going, I don't care what anybody says about me. Those are the people that mostly care. They're just trying to convince them, but you have to say it, right? You have to say, I don't care what anybody says about me, so you can convince yourself that you don't care, because you have to convince yourself you don't care, because if you care, then you're going to lose your mind.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I was scared that people were going to laugh at my character. And if you laugh at my character, then I'm nothing, right? Because that's what you tell yourself.
Because that's what I have. You say like, oh, this is what I have. This is me. So if I fail at this thing, goodness me, what am I then?
Yes. What am I then? Right? So I decided, no, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to bring a different makeup line here. And if that fails, nobody would know that, right? That's them. That's not me.
Wow. You're really tiptoeing. You really tiptoed against around this idea.
I'm like, oh no. If I bring another makeup line, they won't associate it with Jacque Mgido. They'll just be like, I don't know, it's another makeup line. Yeah, that's what it failed, and that's it. Right? I was confident about that. Yeah, I was like, that's it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I tiptoed around it. I was like, I'm not having it. And then the unfortunate part is no companies wanted to come into Zimbabwe. No franchise wanted to come into Zimbabwe. This was 11, 12 years ago. They were looking at us like we're the worst country to invest in. They weren't coming into Zim. They had done their research. Nobody in Zimbabwe was wearing makeup, right? People were wearing makeup, but when I say nobody in Zimbabwe is wearing makeup, it did not become a necessity. Now it's a necessity. You can't go to a wedding without makeup because people are going to look at you like you have lost your mind, like you're not wearing underwear. Okay?
No, facts.
Like you
facts.
came naked. You came naked. Why did you come naked? Like you're not wearing your pants and your underwear, your bra. You are truly naked. What's wrong with you? Right? At that time, it was people who had money that had makeup. And for me, I found that, and it's funny because I would look at the people that were wearing makeup and they're wearing all the wrong makeup, and they were the rich people. And then the poor people were wearing all the wrong. They're wearing. I remember people that couldn't afford it. Poor or people in the middle class, whatever it is, whoever didn't have money was wearing a lip liner, black lip liner, Vaseline, and then they would take off their eyebrows and then draw a straight line across. And then you would put comfort cream, which by the way, I love. You would put comfort cream and then you'll be white.
I'd give us the chance.
No, but this was the truth. Because that was the thing, right? Wow, I remember putting on, because comfort cream gave you this matte finish and also gave you a layer of ash.
Right.
And for us, that was, it wasn't an insult. That's what we thought was.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Because the thing is, when somebody says, and wakachena, what does wakachena mean? And wakachena, it's associated with white.
Yeah.
Which is associated with clean.
Yes.
So the lighter that you were, or the ashier that you were, hey, wageza.
You're really doing it. So you tiptoe around these brands. You eventually but then these brands don't even want to be in Zim to begin with. But you still have this tug at your spirit to be like, so what can I do?
Yeah. So what I did was, I was so frustrated one day. We're coming from San Francisco and driving with Kitani. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own brand because it's so stupid. Because it became also personal for me, right? And then he goes, what are you going to call it? I said, Vault. And then he said, why? I said, because I'm opening myself up to the people that are going to break me down. And those are my people. Is that not the truth? Because let me tell you, Zimbos, we will break each other down, boy. We will put each other on the knees.
Why is that so? Why is that so?
Because it's fear. It's fear. I'm going to look at somebody else and I'm going to break them down because that just makes me feel better. Because I'm that person. Anytime you see somebody insulting a person to the core, it's because they're really insulting themselves. So by saying it loud to that person, it's really they're talking to them because that's what's going on with them.
Because if I can't be happy for you and the work that you're doing, and I'm getting mad at that, there's nothing wrong with you. It has to be internal. Like there has to be something that's in my spirit that is not sitting right.
I remember when I started the brand at home, and I was put in the papers, and there was a picture of me with Snoop Dogg. And that picture, I looked a mess because we were shooting. I didn't put on makeup because we were so busy. It was like we were shooting early in the morning, like 3 a.m. in the morning. And who wants to put makeup on then, right?
Right.
It also taught me a lesson that I need to be on it. Like you have to be ready for anything. And it was my only opportunity, really, throughout the show of taking a picture with Snoop Dogg, because you always want to take your pictures when your artists are more relaxed. And you never want to force the picture on. It has to be natural. And he was like, come on, let's do it, Jackie. And I took the picture and I looked, and I I remember I was a mess. Anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the picture that they put in the paper. Shikanzi, people were like, what? She's the one that's doing Snoop Dogg's makeup. Who you? This one. This ugly girl. This. I mean, they came after
They came for you.
Boy,
they came for you.
At that time.
And you're just reading these comments, seeing these people just come for your neck. Like, wow.
They broke me down and said everything that I had thought of myself that I was trying to hide with makeup. And they saw it and they brought it to light. My big nose, my big cheeks, what I thought of myself as a person, they brought it to life. And to me, that, oh my God, they saw it. They see it. They're confirming everything that I thought I was ugly. They're seeing it and they're calling it out. So it must be true. That broke me.
Tell me something. It's with this idea of, that's why I kind of prodded a little bit about your fears, is because sometimes we won't pursue things because the insecurities that kind of lie within. And if we fail, it validates the insecurity that we believe to be true.
100%.
And then we say, man, so if I'm not going to try this thing, because I might try and fail, and it will validate this insecurity that I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. So you in the paper now, and I guess you've started Vault. Now here we are, right? You're broken. How does one recover from that?
Oh,
is it liberating? Is it liberating? Like, well, it's rock bottom. Well, I guess it's out there now. So is that liberating, or is it,
So I was broken, but it didn't end there, because I went and launched and I was even more broken because nobody bought anything. So liberating? No. It kind of made things worse for me, actually, internally. I felt very emotionally drained, but because I actually loved what I did, I found a way to get myself up. And I also loved making people feel good, because by doing something for somebody else, it's actually my drug. It's actually everybody's drug, to tell you the truth. Right? So that right there changed everything for me. I had failed, but there's one thing I was great at, is making somebody else smile. And that, I think that, you're right, that gave some kind of liberation, It kind of took the spotlight from my face and put the spotlight in my work. And that changed everything. So I came back, when we failed in Zim and just didn't sell things, I came back and decided to do, because what people don't understand is when you start a makeup line, a lot of times people that are starting makeup lines out there, they are doing what they call branding, and they just slap their name on a product. It's not bad. It's what it is, right? It's the cheapest way to do it. It's actually the smartest way to do it. But the problem is I'm a makeup artist. And for me, I felt like a lie if I sold something else that somebody else was selling, because I had no control of it. So eventually we got a chemist. And can I just tell you, it's the most expensive thing that I've ever done in my life. And every day I want to give up. Every single day. And then every day I'm talking myself off a ledge. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, oh my God, I love this. Or madness.
So what is it about a chemist that's more expensive than because, for example, like there could be a Kylie Jenner, right? I'm doing Keeping Up with the Kardashians for X amount of seasons. I've built up this following on social media. I'm doing a makeup line, and then within 5 years, I'm worth $1 billion. So there's that way you're saying, what's the difference between the chemist side and the
right? Okay, so they're
branding
just selling
side.
they're just selling their names, right? So they know that their makeup line won't really last longevity. It's going to be a trend, and it's going to eventually disappear, and they don't care. They've made their money, right? A chemist he's basically adjusting what I need, what I feel my people need. My people, as in my audience, the people that follow me, the people that want a certain type of makeup. So they basically making something so specific for me and coming up with a product for me that nobody else will have. So that's what's expensive.
And that difference that's where like the investment has to be a lot more significant and is just putting your name on it and just
right, because anything that they're making for branding is massive. Anybody, you can come up with a makeup line. Do me makeup. You talk anyone can wake up the next day and have their own makeup line. Anyone, it doesn't matter who it is.
And you feel like your quality and quality for you supersedes that. You look at that route, say, maybe I should do that route, but you say, no, I can't yield to that.
For me, it's quality, it's integrity. That supersedes anything. I don't care who you are, because that's my name. And my parents have always taught me, your name is everything. Without your name, I was the moon. Without your name, you're not a person. And I want to be associated with something that's going to change people's lives, not something that I'm just putting, making millions of dollars from, and then it doesn't mean anything, right? And then someday, somehow, somebody ends up with some kind of cancer, and then I'm blamed for it. No, thank you.
I got you. You talk about changing people's lives, right? And you talk about how sometimes when initially you are in Zim and then you opened yourself up to be broken, if I can, for lack of a better term. But I think but there are two things that often happen. It's like there's, of course, haters or naysayers that, of course, when you open yourself, will bash whatever it is that you put out into the world. But there are also other people. And I remember when you were in Zim launching Vault, I know you went to Mbare to do a launch, or not a launch, but like an outreach, if I can call it that.
An outreach.
What was that like? Did that at least help? You know what I mean?
That didn't help. That didn't help my marketing campaign. That just helped my
your spirit.
Yes. Oh, that was amazing. Can I just tell you how amazing that was? So, okay, we had an event at Borrowdale Brook, right? And that was the launch. Nobody came to buy, but people came to eat. Very important. Nobody came to buy, but everyone came to eat, and they came to eat and drink.
So why would they? Right. Okay.
Hundreds of people came. It was amazing. Nobody came to buy, right? I like one person bought a $10 gloss. I wish I knew this person's name. And if they're ever out there listening, please let me know who you are. I was so depressed. I remember calling your Uncle Kitani and saying, we failed and it's time to come home. But I wanted to make myself feel better. And I said, and I asked myself, what is it that you stood for in life? And I stood for the underdogs, because I'm an underdog, right? So I asked the taxi driver and I said, listen, is there a way that I can go and do a makeover in Barry? He didn't even know what I was talking about. And then I said, no. And I said, I just want to go and help somebody who has a salon and see what I can do to help them before I leave for America and gone forever. And we went, and he said, don't worry, I'll talk to this lady. She's like, right, I wanted hardcore in Barre, right by the market. That's what I wanted.
Right in there.
Right in there. And he went to talk to the lady, because you can't just pitch up, right? Went to talk to the lady. And I remember going to Barre, and a friend of mine, Titi, she used to own a magazine called Jules Magazine. She was going to do a story on us. And she came with me. This lady refused to talk to us. I was like, but she agreed. She refused to talk. She thought that we were associated with some government something, right? And I decided, how on earth are we going to communicate and how am I going to talk to her? So I offered to buy the store some food. And I said, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the market. You're going to buy your employees food and you're going to say we're having a party, but the food is going to come from you and not from me. Because you want to be able to talk to your employees. We started understanding each other more from a businesswoman point of view, because I was a businesswoman, she was a businesswoman. And then when we started talking about, I told her my failures, and then she started telling me I was the one that had failed. She's the one that was doing amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So she was teaching me what it is that she's doing for her employees. And I was telling her what was going on with my employees. And we started laughing. And before you know it, we're good friends. And before you know it, she gave me the right people to go into Mbare and get the makeovers. We wanted to do 2 makeovers. We went into Mbare, they wouldn't allow us to take any videos. We went from walking with 4 people to walking with 20 people who came back. It was an adrenaline rush. I don't know
my goodness.
what I was thinking. I was wearing pink MC Hammer pants. Bright pink MC Hammer pants. So not only did the kids laugh at me, but they loved laughing at me. So, and I didn't mind that, which was really funny because I thought it was really funny as well. We had such a good time. They were so accepting. And I think the best thing is they were so grateful. You know, they were grateful that I was coming in with my team and we were doing this makeover and we were all one. And for that moment in time, nobody saw each other better than anybody. We just saw each other as human beings. It was brilliant. So when I came back, you know, I went on my Facebook to say goodbye and people shouted at me and told me that how dare I come in and leave? I need to stay. So that's when I came back and started the brand all over again.
Really? So people said, well, you said, guys, it's been nice, but this thing didn't really work out. And everyone said, no.
Yeah.
We need you back here.
And they were like, you guys do this. You go, you come into the country, you try it a little bit, you fail, and then you think, you know what, I'm out of here. And yet you introduced us to something. You need to follow through. So yeah, I came back to follow through. And I've been there now for 10 years, 11 years. And I'm following through.
What's been the highest high and what's been the lowest low?
The highest high has been seeing the change and seeing a lot of people that have come through and worked for me, supporting their businesses and their families. The lowest low has been the ungratefulness of employees that have come through and just decided that they just did this on their own. Yeah.
Right. So you give a young woman an opportunity to get upskilled. They again get upskilled and then say, I'm gone. Like, and this is all me, by the way.
This is all me. I'm gone. And oh, by the way, sometimes some of them will even take things from me. That's very hurtful. Very hurtful. But the highest of highs, the people that do work for me and are grateful are truly grateful. You know? And my highest highs, honestly, have been my customers, my loyal customers. I have some Zimbabwean loyal customers that I can't even tell you, man. They've made the brand. That's been my high. That supersedes anything else negative that has happened. I think the reason why I'm so touchy about employees is because they've worked for me. And I made the biggest mistake of taking it, of making it more personal. I'm so emotional about it because when I bring somebody into my business, they're not my employees, they are my family. So it's like, when you do something, I feel like it hurts more, right? Because you love the person.
Yes.
So I take it so personally that way. And I'm really trying not to. I sometimes lie to myself and say, I don't care, but I do.
So what keeps you going? Like, of course, I'm sure you have maybe two questions I have. Is like, what is, I don't know if I hate this word sometimes, but like, what's your big goal? Because sometimes it's not even about the goal. It's just about like the impact or the lives you want to touch or what have you. But is there a big goal, if I can even call it that, as a question? And then two, what keeps you even going when it feels like you're far off from what your intention was when you started?
So my goal is to have this African woman make such an impact when it comes to makeup and have influence in the makeup industry. Influence in the sense that I don't want women bleaching in order for them to feel like they are enough. You know, we talk about insecurities and stuff, and of course now I'm a lot more mature and a little bit more confident of who I am, and I have found things that I can work with that I'm insecure about in terms of my makeup. I'll never be 100% secure of my face.
Sure.
How I feel about certain things is what I'm going to feel about them. You know what I mean? But I found a way to manipulate so I'm comfortable enough with them. That's through makeup. And I want to be able to do that for women. I want to be able to do that for them. But if we don't have this African line that has someone who has integrity, you know, I am a super sensitive person, extremely sensitive. I'm hypersensitive. I feel like I feel for people, you know, and I just feel like if this line grows, then I'm able to be the voices of so many people that feel that they're not enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And when you have moments where I think firstly, you're on your way. You've been doing that for the past few years, and I think you've done a phenomenal job of it,
Thank
right?
you.
And you continue to do. I watch your tutorials on Instagram. I'm like, wow, you're really like teaching. Like, wow, she's really like educating a lot of women about how to manage these things. But what keeps you? Is there are there days where you feel like I'm actually done with this. I'm enough now.
Yeah.
This is just where and what stories have helped uplift your spirit to keep going?
Oh, I have those moments maybe 10 times a month. Honestly, I do. Yeah, I have them. And sometimes they're extreme and sometimes they're a little bit toned down. But the places that I go to would be the people who are very important in my life. I have my husband. I have my daughter who is such a cheerleader. Mommy, Mommy, I see that you're sad, but you know what? It's going to be okay. You know, when you hear a kid say it's going to be okay, they don't know it's going to be okay. They want it to be okay because they want to feel okay. So I have no choice but to feel okay, right? And then I have people like Pam, who's been my general manager in Zimbabwe. You know, people tell you if you have a business in Zimbabwe, you need that one person that you can trust, right? They don't have to be amazing at what they do, but they have to be amazing at protecting the money. I can leave Pam with thousands of dollars. I don't even have to count it when she hands it to me.
Yeah.
That's how trustworthy she is. You know, I'm not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to turn around tomorrow and this woman's going to steal stuff from me or anything. And we're really good friends. We will call each other when things are bad and she will lift me or I will lift her. But for the most part, by the time we get off that phone, we know things are going to be okay. Yeah. So I will tell her, you know, sometimes I'm like, man, dude, we've been doing this business for such a long time. And then we'll watch somebody, a makeup line, and they'll steal an idea, which we know perfectly well they're stealing an idea from smaller lines like ours. And then it'll grow. And then I'll call and be like, what is the point of me doing this? Like, why am I killing myself? I could be living an amazing life in America where I have a house, I'm traveling with my family. And she'll come back and she'll say, when I hear her go, Jacqueline. What she is basically saying to me is, stop lying to yourself. You'll never be happy with that. And then
playing,
I have
like, stop playing. Yeah, right.
Stop playing. And then I have my sisters that are so supportive. I have all my Muchayuka sisters are super supportive. Your auntie Winnie, my sister Auntie
Yeah, of
Jessie.
course.
I have my brothers. I have, like they'll put me in my place. And Winnie is the one that is in Zim, and when business is going crazy, she's very optimistic about Zimbabwe. Okay. Sometimes I think she's optimistic to a fault until she reminds me. I've never seen anybody that loves their country as much as Winnie does. Absolutely. And then she'll tell me again, Jacqueline. When they call me Jacqueline, I know I'm in trouble.
So let's get it together.
So I have people like that. And then I also have, I have specific friends. And I don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances, but I don't have a lot of friends.
I got you.
And my friends are my friends. Very few of them, for sure.
And sometimes, of course, people are working towards like start businesses, grow them. How big do you guys want it to be? I don't know if big is the right word. And that's one. And then two, how can people help you? Of course, one thing to just buy, right? But is it sometimes even beyond just a purchase? It might be a relationship that will unlock a particular challenge that's being faced. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or might be a relationship to a market, or how best can people help you?
I think how people can help is by understanding where I've come from, who I am as a business. Because once you understand the story and understand how unique the story, for me, it's not about the purchases, because the purchases will come. I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm going to buy a lipstick and supporting her, I'm good, we're done. When you don't understand the story, then it's not going to mean anything. For me, I would rather you understand the story, because when you tell somebody else, they're so invested in what we are doing that they have no choice but to support. And people always think purchasing is the support. No, the support is spreading the word and the right word. That's the support. Calling somebody when you are sitting down and having conversation with people that are doing unique things, especially being from your country, then you're like, right. Do you know about this Jackie girl? She's the only union Hollywood makeup artist throughout the continent. You know how big the continent is?
One person.
Yeah. The only one. What does that mean? Meaning that Hollywood has a union of makeup artists. There's a lot of makeup artists in the world, but they have a union. And if you flip through their book, because we're in a book, there's one African girl. In fact, there's 3 Africans, 2 are white and 1 black African girl. And that's me, from Zimbabwe, a little country in Zimbabwe. But a lot of people will never know that. They don't respect, a lot of people don't get makeup. They always think, it's just makeup, Unless I'm a scientist and stuff like that, they don't get it. For them, science is super important, and being in the medical is super important, and saving people's lives. But people also don't understand that, as funny and crazy as it sounds, makeup is actually saving lives as well. Because, everybody always says it starts from the inside and outside. But the truth of the matter is, if you're feeling bad about your outside, the inside is not going to be great.
It's not going to do nothing. Let's get it right.
Well, you can have all the insides that you want, but if you feel like I look a hot mess, then it's not helping you out.
So let's say the story gets shared, right? Let's say you have someone will listen to this and they say like, oh gosh, I get it. And they fan the flame or what have you. What does the story being shared and kind of blowing up look like? Does it then look like, the online business growing, or, reaching Australia and New Zealand or Nigeria? You know what I mean?
That is exactly it. Because what's going to happen is while people are talking, there's going to be somebody that is got an influence in some big market going into some big department stores, and they say, wait, hold on, I heard about this makeup line. Oh, the African? We really want an African brand that pretty much caters to everybody, whether they're white, black, or whatever they are, as long as it's a brand made by this African woman, made by this makeup artist, made by this artist. Let's put her in the stores. That's how it works.
As it stands now, who are we? Because when I go to the shops, it probably was dominated by what Estee Lauder brands like Bobbi Brown, Clinique, or what have you. Are there any African brands that are really on a retail level, beyond Iman maybe? But yeah,
Juvia is a Nigerian line, and it's doing exceptionally well. Yeah, Juvia. Nobody else has really hit. In fact, Juvia is here in the stores here, Ulta, which is Ulta is like a big makeup store, but that's the only African brand that's here.
That's one. But African women wear makeup, right? African women wear makeup. The last I checked, right?
The whole continent is wearing makeup, and if you go to Africa, right, people have these small little lines, but the lines that are recognizable in Africa, this is the funny thing, right? So here it is. We started the brand in Zimbabwe, right? And then I even have my own people that have had makeup, learned makeup from me, whatever. But people would rather buy makeup from out of the country than support the brand.
There's this perception that it's better if I buy MAC than if I buy Jacque Mgido cosmetic or whatever other 100%. Local brand.
She's African, and there's no way this African could be that good. Wait, hold on. She works in Hollywood. But there's no way she could be that good because MAC is right and white is right.
Why are we so? I think that's I was going to say. Why are we obsessed with foreign brands? But I think you touched on it earlier, where I think there's this idea that we're obsessed with Western things. Therefore, it surely has to be better. It just has to be better.
It has to be better. It has to be better. It has to be better.
Even if it's not mixed to my complexion, even if it's not mixed to the right my complexion.
Nope.
Still,
I would rather walk around ashy and a ghost because I am wearing Amani.
Yeah.
And if somebody feels entitled that they are supposed to be the rich, the wealth, there's no way that you can be caught with a brand that is not of stature, that has been advertised by somebody who looks completely different from you, but it has to be perfect. That's what it is.
So I'm gonna close us off here, but I want to touch on one thing, which is you are fighting this struggle right now. You are on a daily basis you're in the US, but you're for the past 10 years have been really trying to work hard to really build a brand that will, of course, transcend your environment and what have you. But I think there are also other Zimbabweans in different other spaces that also are abroad or locally, but want to start a brand of their own because they feel in their spirit that it's important to create something for themselves and for their people. One, what advice would you have for them? Do you know what I mean?
Right. So it's very important for people to know that there is enough for all of us out there. I encourage people to start their own makeup brands. You know why? Because the more we do it as Africans, the more we'll be recognized by the Western world. The reason why people think things are better in the Western world, for the most part, they are. Why? Because they are exposed to the things that will make it better, right? So imagine if 10 Zimbabweans or 100 Zimbabweans start their own makeup brand, right? Somewhere in the Western world, they'll be like, oh, this is a Zimbabwean line, and they'll recognize us, and one of us will be picked up, right? By one of us getting picked up, I always feel there is enough for all of us in the world. We will all make it. Me being the only makeup line and coming into Zimbabwe, I think there's 2 other makeup lines in Zimbabwe that are Zimbabweans, right? There's, what's the name? I'm forgetting like half of the names, but There's 2 other makeup lines in Zimbabwe.
Right.
Ruby Lynn. There's Ruby Lynn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I loved that because what those other makeup lines did for me was educate all those other women that there's a thing called makeup.
Mm.
And they picked whatever they liked from Ruby Lynn. They picked whatever they liked from whatever other lines that they were out there. And we all started making money.
There's enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody.
God, there's enough for everybody. I can't touch everybody. It's not going to happen, you know? And sometimes starting something, you suffer from it more than anybody else, right?
Right. Auntie Jay.
So I just encourage that so much. I encourage people to not think that, oh my God, you know, I should be the only one. Because guess what? It's a very lonely world when you're the only one. Let's all do it together.
Well, thank you for your time. Firstly, I think it's been super inspirational. I think the main takeout for me is the fact that you're still working through the idea of overcoming that insecurity of, or just rolling with it, right? To be like, look, yes, I have these insecurities, but I'm going to use them to still create something that I think can touch people's lives and fuel this drug of impacting people. I think, in my hunch, I think makeup is just the vehicle through which you do that. You know, I think your real passion is about touching people, but makeup is the vehicle through which you do that, you know?
For sure. You know, I have to tell you something. Instead of trying to overcome your insecurities, because you'll never overcome your insecurities. We're human beings, you know. I think God is smart enough to put that in there because he knew that we're so foolish. We'll work on trying to overcome it, where he's like, it's engraved in you. Work around it. Because you're chasing something that is not attainable. You are chasing it, right? So how about you adjust to it and work around it and see what works for that insecurity? Those are my last words to everybody else. Stop it. Be about it.
Thank you so much.
That's so great. I love it.
Shaka